Evening to see longtime friends and visitors from other places who have come tonight to celebrate Shabbat, to celebrate, oh, you're right in front of me, celebrate Andrew becoming a bar mitzvah. It is truly a beautiful night to come together. We begin tonight with a prayer for peace on page 657. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Peace will surely come to us and to everyone. Page 657.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'akulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'akulam. Salam. Salam Aleinu. Ve'kol ha'olam. Salam. Shalom. Salam Aleinu ve'kol ha'olam. Salam. Shalom. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'akulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'akulam. Salam. Salam Aleinu ve'kol ha'olam. Salam. Shalom. Salam Aleinu ve'kol ha'olam. Salam. Shalom. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'akulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'akulam.
When we come together to pray, we are creating a Kihilat Kodesh, a holy and sacred community. But in order to create that sense of community, we have to know who we're sitting next to. So let's take a few minutes to stand up, move around, and introduce ourselves to at least 3 people we didn't know when we walked in this evening.
You should first.
So all of this wonderful chatter is so good to hear. And after services, I hope we'll continue to get to know each other as we go to the Oneg. Andrew. I love hassling him. Oh, no. I was harassing that Andrew. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. It was Andrew Schwartz I was bothering. No, you get to sit with your parents a little bit longer. But it's good to know that at least one Andrew was listening, so that's good.
At least he's ready.
You
I
did-
should have said which Andrew. It was Andrew Schwartz, not Andrew Yarbrough, so sorry about that.
You did perfect.
So we continue now with Lecha Dodi on page 138, and we'll be singing verses 1, 2, and 9, page 138.
Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat, Nekabla, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom Umevorach, Shamor v'zachor, v'dibur echad, Yishmi'anu El Hayuchad, Adonai Echad, U'Shemo Echad, L'Shem U'Tiferet, V'Litehila, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom Umevorach, Likrat Shabbat lekuf enelecha, Ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom Umevorach.
Boi v'shalom ha'teret ba'ala gam b'simcha u'tzola toch emunei am segula boi chala
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom Umevorach.
So Andrew Yarbrough, your excitement is the type of excitement that makes Cantor and I so delighted to be able to share the Bima with you this weekend as you become a bar mitzvah. And in honor of this wonderful time in your life, I'd like to invite you to come and join us now, along with your parents, John and Lisa, and your sister Julia, to join us on the Bima, to do us the honor of leading us in the candle blessing. The candle blessing can be found on page 120, but first we continue with Shalom Aleichem on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyonim, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyonim, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Amen. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom,
Malachei Elyon, V'imech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Seichem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, V'imech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We continue with the Baruch Hu on page 146. Please rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
We continue together on the top of page 149. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, for whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim.
Ahava Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta, Amcha Ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otan limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu uvkumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nizmach b'divrei Toratecha u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu ve'oreh Yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layel nege yomam v'layla ve'ahavatcha tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohei Amo Yisrael Ohei Amo Yisrael. Amen.
Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad
Baruch
Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
We continue together with the Ve'ahavta on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. The story of our exodus from Egypt is so central to who we are as Jews that we talk about it in our morning prayers and in our evening prayers. With the Micha Mocha, we remember the flight towards freedom that we took. The rabbis, however, wanted to bring the point home even more, and if you look at a traditional prayer book, you'll see in the morning service the Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea, the fuller passage that the Micha Mocha comes from, the passage that tells about our running away from Pharaoh's army and crossing over dried land and into freedom and safety on the other side. We're supposed to frame our day, morning and night, with this story of the flight for freedom. We're supposed to internalize this story to such a degree that we're taught that we are supposed to see ourselves as though we ourselves were refugees. And the reason we're supposed to do that is for the reason that came to our congregation 2 weeks ago today, when we received the call from Sacramento Act to house refugees, to bring people into Sacramento into safety, to give them assistance and aid, like most of our ancestors did not get in most of the countries that we have had to flee to time and time again. We are always supposed to identify with the one who fled and not the one who pursued and persecuted. So when we sing the Micha Mocha, ask yourself, what in your life are you doing to help the stranger, to help the oppressed, to help the one who is not only running away from danger, but running towards freedom. Because if we are running with them, then we could share in the song of redemption. Page 158.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילו, עושה פלא, נורא תהילו, עושה פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע היה לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די די די, יאי די 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 די. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
As Jews, we recognize that the world that we live in is broken, that there is much to be fixed, so much work to be done. But even as we do the work, we don't stop dreaming of a day, one day, when everything will be whole again and we'll all have a sense of shelter and a sense of peace. We continue on page 160.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. Sometimes I lay under the moon and I thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day,
It is with great pleasure that I not only invite up our youth B'nai Mitzvah students, but I'd like to invite up all of our adult B'nai Mitzvah students to join us on the bima as well, and to do us the honor of leading us in the Vishamru and the Tefillah, beginning on page 162.
You're 13. Veshamru bnei Israel השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Please rise for the tefillah on page 164.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agitei latecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot U'Mevi Geula Lifnei V'neihem Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mekayeh Hakol Atah Rav Le'Hoshia Morid Atah Mekakel Chaim Bechesed Mekayeh Hakol Berachamim Rabim Somet Noflim Verofei Cholim Umatir Hasurim Umekayem Emunato Lishanei Afar Vichamocha Ba'akevurot Umidom Elach Melech Memit Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah lechayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mekayeh hakol Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh U'kadoshim b'chol yom Yehalelucha selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue praying privately from page 172 through 180, either standing or sitting as is your custom.
Go inside your heart, just be. Go inside your heart and see what it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see. May the word of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be kind, be true. May they be acceptable to you, oh my rock and my redeemer. Yehiyu l'ratzon nimrei fi v'hegyo libi. Yehiyu l'ratzon nimrei fi v'hegyo libi lefaneh.
Our thoughts and our prayers now turn towards those in our life and those in our world who are in need of healing, a healing of body or a healing of spirit. We invite you to please join us with the Misha Berach that you could find in your Shabbat flyers.
Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov. Misha Berach Imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Berachah. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer.
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 Hear our prayer. And bless us as one. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with a vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Misha Berach Avotenu, Misha Berach Imotenu.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer. And bless us as well.
Shabbat Shalom. So I've been at camp all week long, working 14-hour days. No, for real, 14-hour days. I work harder. Don't tell the president, but I work harder at camp than I do here. 14-hour days in one of the most beautiful places in the world. But what that meant was I had absolutely no time to write a sermon for tonight. So you get to do what I like to call Ask the Rabbi. So, and what some of you call Stump the Rabbi, but I prefer Ask the Rabbi. So does anyone have any questions? Oh, no. This is the Stump the Rabbi side of the room. Yes, sir. What question do you have for me today?
Are there punishments for people that don't pay attention during services?
So, one of the things that I was teaching at camp this week were about the powers that rabbis used to have to cast spells and curses and all sorts of things like that. And luckily for you, I don't have that power. So all you get is a withering look of guilt. And that is the worst punishment that I am capable of giving. But luckily, I didn't see anyone who wasn't paying attention, so you're good. I wasn't looking. But you're not supposed to tell on yourself. Here you go.
Do the rabbis have any rules that they have to follow? Well, like,
Yes.
well, yeah. No, I know that, but like the same rules like everybody else has to follow.
Yes, and. So in Judaism, there's no difference between a rabbi and every other Jew. We all have the same set of rules that we're supposed to follow. However, because a rabbi is often a leader in the community, we put upon ourselves extra rules and conditions. And so, for instance, I belong to a group called the Central Conference of American Rabbis, which is a union of Reform rabbis from all over North America, and we have what is called a code of ethics. And so we put upon ourselves a higher standard of how we are supposed to behave that also comes with it punishments or avenues for redemption if we violate any of those rules. Because when a leader in a community violates social or ethical norms, the consequences can be much more damaging to the community. So we hold ourselves to a higher standard. And that is something that is constantly being reevaluated and thankfully made more and more strict. That was a good question. Anyone else? Yes, Melissa. I know, that's why I got nervous. Is how many parts to this question?
As I understand it, when someone converts to Judaism, they're a Jew. But I still hear people say or refer to, I'm a Jew by choice. And that to me seems inconsistent. So I'm wondering if you can explain that.
Yes, it is inconsistent. However, in America, especially in the last 20 years, it's been very popular to understand the idea that we are actually all Jews by choice. In other countries, if you are born Jewish, it's stamped on your identity papers and on your birth certificate and all these other things. And America was really the first and one of the few countries where there is not an external force identifying us as Jews, which means it's very easy to slip out of the Jewish community because you don't have to convert out, you just simply stop being Jewish. And so in America, in a sense, we are all Jews by choice. That, no one is, well, unless you have parents who are holding, I don't know, an inheritance over your head or something. No one is forcing us to be Jewish. But you're right, we once you convert, you're a Jew. And that's it. And we're not supposed to, but I also, there are two sides to it. The original idea was you don't want to make someone embarrassed by implying that they came from a different background. But with that also comes an arrogance that somehow you should be embarrassed that you came from a different background. So I'm not a fan of that aspect of that philosophy. The other thing that I've seen is, as Jews, we have a lot of internalized self-hatred from popular culture and the media. We tend to, when somebody says they want to convert, our response usually is, why? Right, doesn't reflect well of how we see ourselves. And I find that when we meet people who have chosen to become Jews as adults, knowing the consequences, especially we still have tons of people in the conversion program, even though anti-Semitism is constantly on the rise, I think it actually strengthens other people's Jewish identity. When we see that to other people, it has value and that it enhances their life. And so while we're not supposed to publicly point out someone as Jewish, we have made it the practice here that when somebody goes through the conversion process to publicly bless them, because I have found many Jews are ignorant about the conversion process and why someone might choose to become Jewish. So there's all sorts of pros and cons. And maybe it's to not embarrass ourselves because the Jews by choice tend to be better educated, volunteer more, and generally more engaged in the congregation. That was meant to give everyone else guilt so that you should aspire to that level. I'll be right back there. Come back up. Somebody said. Vicky.
So a follow-up of sorts to that. All right. So Judaism is not an evangelical go out and try to make converts except in certain small areas. But recently I've been hearing about a lot of billboards from Jew Belong. You come for your girlfriend, stay for the food, like trying to do conversion, where I know you're supposed to turn somebody down 3 times. How does that work?
So it's not necessarily for the purpose of conversion. It's to say you're welcome with us. So part of it is, I don't know if you've noticed, but we could be a little insular as a community. Have you seen that at all? So no one's laughing? Okay. So because as a community, some people may not know that they're welcome, I'm shocked at the amount of people over my rabbinate that I've met who didn't know that converting was even an option, which is telling you how closed off aspects of our community must seem if people don't even know that that's a choice if they want it. So those billboards are for 2 reasons. One is to let the non-Jewish partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, etc., of someone to know that they're welcome to come and hang out with us and be a part of the community. And there's a lot of people who may have some Jewish heritage and not a lot, and they feel on the outside. So that's also to get them to know this is also your community and you are also welcome to be a part of it. Yeah, billboards for us is a weird thing. That is a very new experience. Oh, and why did I walk all the way to the front? Here we go.
So earlier you mentioned negative portrayals in popular culture of Jews. Do you have like a best of list of your favorite positive portrayals?
I'm not sure that it's positive exactly, but I really love the Jews on Mrs. Maisel. Like, it is a very mixed bag, but like when the dad is in his jumpsuit in the Catskills drinking his prune juice, like that, he's a much thinner version of my grandfather, and who used to wear those jumpsuits like as daily wear. And it just feels like I'm at home when I'm watching them. So that is definitely, right now, that's at the top of my list of just feel good, and my God, the way they dress. Yes. So I'd say Mrs. Maisel's are right now are my favorites.
What would happen if a temple, so I saw somewhere, or I heard quite a few times, that a temple faces Jerusalem. What would happen if a temple were to be built and someone realized that it's not facing Jerusalem?
So we almost had that problem here. I don't know how many of you had been a part of not the architect that we finally hired to redo the sanctuary, but the architect that we had very briefly before that, tried to explain to us that the setup for the room would be much better if we were, I think it was either facing north or facing south. And and he was Jewish, and we had to explain to him that is not an option. He then lost the job. So I think it's more if you suggest such a thing, you don't get hired. So nothing bad will happen. However, the custom is that when we pray, whether it's in the synagogue or in the home, we face Jerusalem. So Ashkenazi Jews have something that is called a mizrach. I don't know what Jews who live to the east of Israel do, but it's traditional to have, mizrach means like towards the east. And so it's traditional to have a piece of art that has Jerusalem on it. So when you're in that house, you know which way to pray. Cantor and I, because we are in the modern age, when we go to do a Shiva service at someone's house, we usually have somebody pull out their phone and tell us which way is east, and we do it that way. So nothing bad will happen, but it's just how we spiritually orient ourselves is towards Jerusalem.
Can you please remind me of the explanation of why during the Mourner's Kaddish we now do the leaning to the three sides during the Oseh Shalom B'Mrama? I can't remember.
So, first of all, it keeps you awake. No, that's not the reason. Because the prayer is saying, may the one who makes peace on high make peace down below. And so we're kind of saying to God, bring the peace over here and bring the peace over there, and just bring it everywhere. So it is, most of us are experiential learners. And so it's kind of a way of reminding us of where we want the peace and reminding God that everywhere. No, because then we're usually swaying, and it's a little bit harder. No, but only when we say that. Only we're saying the prayer. Last chance. Let me get somebody who hasn't asked yet.
Last week I attended services at a Reform synagogue in the Bay Area, and it seemed like all their prayers were ones we skip in the book, and the ones that were the same were different tunes. I had a really hard time following. I'll tell you later. So I was just wondering, I'm sure it's Rabbi Cantor's choice and congregation tradition. Yes. Is there any rules on which parts you don't skip?
So my bet is that they were probably doing English where we do Hebrew and vice versa. It was probably the same prayers, but different versions of those prayers. So is what I'm betting it was. Because some prayers we do consistently in Hebrew and we do consistently in English, where the way the prayer book is designed, you basically have 4 choices for each prayer. but we kind of fall into a routine because it's easier to pray if you kind of know what to anticipate. So yeah, in terms of the melodies and the choices of prayers, it's Rabbi Cantor choice. I'm hoping we didn't skip over any big ones. Now I'm getting nervous thinking about it. Okay, one more, Marion.
A two-part. So some of us never went to overnight camp. I'd like to hear a little bit about that. But we talked about being insular. What would be the argument then to send our children or grandchildren to a Jewish camp as opposed to a camp where they get to interact with children with different backgrounds?
So I'm going to start backwards on your question. Unless you're living in New York, Chicago, LA, or even San Francisco, your kid is interacting with people of all sorts of religions and ethnic backgrounds every single day, all the time. And what they're not doing is actually hanging out with other Jewish kids, except maybe on a Sunday morning and one afternoon during the week. And so for most of us growing up in the United States, we feel odd and outside looking in as Jews most of the year. And so I didn't even find out until I think 20 years after I graduated high school how many Jews were actually in my high school, because we all hid that we were Jewish. So you only knew who was Jewish that went to your synagogue. And so for those of us who grew up in that environment, camp is unbelievably freeing. It's the one place where you don't have to explain who you are ever, where you're just you. And Jewish camp is that place where, especially for I was a nerdy little Jewish kid, and I wasn't a nerdy little Jewish kid there. I was just a kid. And that was really amazing. And so the argument to send your kid to Jewish camp, it's a place where they feel normal. It's a place where they don't have to explain anything about who they are or what they do. The insular is because of fear. We tend to be insular if people are... I was talking to one of the girls at camp this week, and she was talking about... the anti-Semitism she received that centered around her nose and how she was mocked because of her Jewish nose. We're insular because we're constantly being told by the outside world that being Jewish is not enough. And right now we are told by some elected officials that this is a Christian nation and we should have a Christian government. And for a kid who's growing up, that's pretty scary. And so to be in a place where one of the things they do at camp, there's a place called the Star, and it's the highest point at camp, and the kids go and hike up to the Star, and then when they get up there, they yell as a group, "I love being Jewish!" And they love doing that, and it makes me so sad, because it's a place where they're really just saying, "I love being me." And that is incredible. So summer camp, raise your hand if you went to Jewish summer camp. So I'm hoping, keep your hand raised if you would recommend for other people to go to summer camp. Okay, so tell me what was special about it?
Yeah, so I grew up identifying myself to other people as half Jewish, which I also think is problematic for a lot of the things you've touched on today. And I got to explore and understand my Jewish identity at camp because I grew up with my mom who was not Jewish. So for me, it was a really special experience in that way, and also exactly, but it was it was Reform Jewish camp, so there was a lot of room for questions and growth and new experiences. So for me, I got to understand a part of my identity that I otherwise never would have explored, and now as an adult, I identify as Jewish. So
I want to pick up on one of the things that she said there, which is that is one of the really important kids do without realizing that they're doing it. They're figuring out for themselves what they want to do. Raise your hand if you're a parent who had a kid who went to camp and then came back and said, "Can we do Shabbat at home? Can we try this? Can we do that?" And so for a lot of kids, that may be the first time they're actually living. It's called Camp Newman for Living Judaism. It's to help kids not learn about what Jews do, but to do what Jews do. And that's something that a lot of kids don't have a chance to experience. Anyone else want to add to why camp is so fabulous?
So, as someone who went to a school where there were no other Jews, when I was in elementary school, and middle school. It really was the place that I could be my full self. I didn't have to explain to anyone why I'm getting dressed for Shabbat or anything related to holidays. I just got to do it. And it was when you have a community of friends who are all doing the same thing and know why they're doing it and no one has to explain why, it makes you feel like you're on cloud nine. And for those who've been to Camp Newman who know what it looks like when everyone comes marching into the Beit Tefillah wearing their white clothes, it is literally magic. And finding that magical connection. I'm still friends with people I went to camp with. In fact, the current camp director was one of my friends in camp. So it's just a very special place and I would say very important for any young Jewish development.
Okay, we'll end with the first.
Hi. I have another question. Has anyone ever passed out on the bima?
On this bima or any bima? On this bima or any other bima? So, when a couple months before my bat mitzvah, there was a kid in my B'nai Mitzvah class who passed out at his bar mitzvah because it was August in Newport, and for some reason his mother thought getting him a wool suit was a really good idea. And our air conditioning, because this is the 80s, was not great. And it's not me. Okay. And so he passed out. Actually, Cantor, we had an almost pass out, but it was in the chapel. Do you remember that during COVID? Okay, so this is a cautionary tale to all the boys. So during COVID, I was in here, and our B'nai Mitzvah families were in the chapel, and there was a boy who, Cantor said, "Are you ready to read Torah?" And then he walked off the screen, and we didn't see him, and we thought that he was just joking, and then he didn't come back, and then his mother exited the screen, and then his father, and we're like, oh my gosh. So now I'm running to the chapel to try to see what is going on in there. It turned out he had never tied a tie before, and he went on YouTube and he tied the tie, and he didn't know how things were supposed to be, and he had actually been slowly suffocating himself during services. And so we took the tie off, unbuttoned his top of his shirt. I had him put his head between his knees and breathe for a while. And then he came back and he read the Torah beautifully, and he was unfazed, but the rest of us were really traumatized. So this is my advice to you if you're wearing, and so what happened was actually it was his shirt that was too tight, but because he had been tying the tie, his dad didn't know. So if you were wearing a shirt and tie, you should be able to fit 2 fingers between your collar and your neck. Otherwise, you too may suffocate. A little pro tip there. So on that note, a man who knows how to tie his own tie without suffocating, our president, Josh Mastronardi.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Rabbi, for that wonderful Q&A. If anybody has any questions for me, feel free to ask the Rabbi. And thank you, Cantor and Michael, for a wonderful service, and Mazel Tov to Andrew and your whole family. Tonight after services, there's an oneg join us, hosted by the B'nai Mitzvah class in honor of Andrew's becoming a bar mitzvah, and you can ask any questions you want of me then. Tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Torah study, which is now hybrid, both in person and on Zoom. 10:30 Shabbat morning services, including celebrating the bar mitzvah of Andrew Yarborough. The CBI office is going to be closed on Monday, June 19th, in observance of Juneteenth. Looking to next week, we have some really special Shabbat services coming up. The next Friday night will be a evening service led by Rabbi Denny Marshall with special song leaders Elizabeth Landsberg, Stephen Marshall, and Sandy Lee. On Saturday morning, we're returning to the chapel for Saturday morning services. These will be lay-led Shabbat morning services. Judy Emick Leatherwood and Blair Leatherwood will be leading those. Upcoming, starting this coming week, Camp Nefesh starts Monday, and they are urgently looking for adult volunteers to be drivers and camp supervisors. You can go to campnefesh.com, or Ronit, can you stand up? Or find Ronit at the ONEG, and she'll get you more information. And Camp Shulana, which starts up after that, is hiring art, cooking, and sports specialists. So if you know somebody that's looking for that kind of work, please spread the word. Havdalah in the Hood, the signups are up, and it's returning this summer. It's a special opportunity, a chance to share Havdalah with people from your neighborhood or from the community. Check up the registration on the Hadashot has the link to that. The Federation is starting a survey of the region's Jewish community. You'll see a info and a link that'll actually come from us, from CBI, on I believe Sunday. This is kind of looking at the trends, needs, and resources of the entire region. It's really important that's going to come again. It's going to come from us. It's not spam, and so we encourage you to go ahead and click that link and fill that out. And I also wanted, for those of you who weren't able to attend the annual meeting on Sunday, the slideshow, a really, really awesome slideshow of all the things going on at the synagogue. It's kind of our form of an annual report. That's available on the website, as is the recording from the meeting. And now, Andrew, I'd like to invite you to introduce your family.
Could my family please stand up? Thank you, guys. Okay, so this is my grandma Judy. This is my papa David. This is my Saba. This is my Nana Norma. This is my Aunt Diana, my Uncle Darren, my Aunt Janet, cousin Deborah, cousin Peter, my Uncle Barry, my Aunt Lynn, and my Grandma Mary.
Welcome. Shabbat Shalom. And now I'd like to ask any members of the Board of Trustees, past presidents, and committee chairs to stand and introduce yourselves.
My name is Steve Orkand. I'm a past president.
Dale Kassler, also past president.
Hi, I'm Sandy Lee, and I'm here as the representative for Women of B'nai Israel.
Rachel Stern, VP of Education.
Rabbi Stacy Peterson, Director of Lifelong Jewish Learning.
Michael Herscher, Chairman of the Lifelong Learning Committee.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's my pleasure to invite up all of our B'nai Mitzvah students, both in the youth and the adult programs, to join us on the Bima once again as we continue with our concluding prayers, beginning with the Aleinu on the bottom of page 586. Please rise. John and Glenn, the adult members of the B'nai Mitzvah class as well are invited to join us. That's what happens when you're married to the rabbi.
I was just going to say, that's what happens when the rabbi knows you well.
Yeah.
Aleinu leshaveach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim. Lifnei melech בשמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינת זו בגובי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו כך כתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated.
I just want to clarify that I'm not married to both Glenn and John, just one of them.
That's on the
Yeah,
next,
the one with the
that's on
hat.
the next Ask the Rabbi.
I was afraid there might be rumors of polygamy going around if I didn't clarify that. Our thoughts now turn to loved ones who are no longer with us. And it is with great sadness that we announce the recent passing of Johnny Wong, the beloved husband of Barbara Wong and the beloved father of Kent Wong, beloved father-in-law of Nanette Wong, and a very adored grandfather. Also with great sadness, we announce the recent passing of Fred Winbrandt, the beloved husband of Petra Winbrandt. And also sadly, we recall the recent passing of Joyce Levitt, the beloved friend and grandmother of Zevi Horowitz. And sadly, we also recall the recent passing of John Davis, the beloved husband of Fifi Zeff. Zichronam livracha, may their memories forever be a blessing. We also recall loved ones who have passed away at this time in years past. We remember Maurice Attia, Petty Bahar, Robert Bamberger, Solomon Bellinson, Benjamin Bulos, Ed Serlin, Tom Cottington, Joyce Feldstein, Harold Forster, Barbara Friedman, Zoltan Glatter, Michael Goldstein, Alan Grossfield, Mac Hall, Gary Hamill, Tanya Herman, Hilda Herscher, Ann Katz, Jean Kaufman, Lila Klempner, Bernard Koretsky, Wayne Koster, Gerald Kubel, Fred Lamphere, Rita Lauer, Sarah Leibowitz, Ruth Brody Levin, Edward McCandless, John McElhaney, Henry Miller, Claire Mix, Henry Newberger, Shirley Nicodemus, Aubrey Penman, Jeffrey Roden, Rosa Schwab, Dorothy Schwartz, Todd Solomon, Marvin Tincher, Harold Trimble, Leo Wallen, Sheila Weckstein, Philip Weiner, David Udell, and Louis Zimmerman. If there are any names that anyone would like to add to the Kaddish list tonight, please feel free to call those names aloud as my gaze meets yours. If you are saying Kaddish for a loved one tonight, I'd like to invite you to please rise. And if the congregation can please join me in these words of comfort. Hamakom yenechem etchem betok sha'ar avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We rise as a community to offer comfort to those who grieve as we continue together with the Mourners Kaddish on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma tivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam umei amaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitolal shmei dekudsha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushvachata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'marmav, say shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. Michael, I'm assuming you have something beautiful to conclude for a closing song tonight?
I hope so.
You going to let us in on it?
So, a couple years ago, the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism put out an album of songs that were all about social justice, different things about how the Jewish experience merges with the experience of people who've been oppressed and abandoned and all over the world. And so Julie Silva wrote a song about sanctuary. When one of us is suffering, we all feel pain. When one of us is stumbling, we fall again and again. All of us are slaves till all of us are free. Everyone needs sanctuary. When some of us go hungry, all of us can't eat. When words are not enough for us, we pray with our feet. We pray for the dreamers that pray for you and me. We can be their sanctuary. So let us set a table wide and long, where everyone has plenty and everyone belongs, where everyone agrees to disagree. Underneath this canopy, I will be your shelter, open on all sides. I will take you in and stand by your side. No matter where you come from or where you'd rather be, I will be your sanctuary. So stand up and sing, let your voices ring. Bring what you can bring and be a sanctuary.
That was absolutely beautiful, Michael. Thank you. We conclude the service with the Kiddush and the Motzi. The Kiddush can be found on page 123. All Are you concerned that it's wine? Could be vodka. Let's see. Oh, no. No, vodka's, sorry, that's the fruit of the earth, not the vine. It's a shame, really.
The grapevine.
I know.
You know what? I don't know. We'll find out. How's that? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techilah lemikra'ei kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat Amen. L'chaim u'shalom. I'm going to say
It was grape juice, just so you know, that was grape juice. Do you feel better now? Okay, good.
It was a good afternoon.
Should be more of a ooh, ah. So, for those of you who've not been here on Shabbat with us, since COVID, we have stopped sharing a giant challah that all of us get to touch and breathe on and sneeze on. And instead, we have a challah that is for blessing purposes only. The challah you get to eat will not have been touched by 500 pairs of hands, but it will be pre-sliced for you at the oneg.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom v'te'avon.
Please join us for the oneg.